mentioned coming into this game, one of the reasons why you cannot, think, I would say not think down about this team, but think that this team isn't capable is the fact, like you said, that they already have beat Texas. They have looked good in a lot of games. And like you mentioned, there is always a bump effect when it comes to a guy that's an interim coach, because a lot of times the players want to play, obviously, strong for him, but also put good stuff on tape as well for whoever the next guy might be.
And honestly, I would be nervous if I were Bulldog fans right now, because if you look at the rest of the schedule, I mean, if you lose one of these games here in the next 4, I don't think they're beating Georgia Tech. I think Haynes King is going to come back.
Yeah.
He's got a bitter taste in his mouth from that, I believe it was 7 or 8 overtime loss in Athens last year. I believe that game is actually going to be played in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like if Florida were to knock this team off, it could make things dicey here for Georgia. I mean, you could make the argument that they could be the first 3-loss team in the college football playoff, but you just gotta win the games though.
That's the biggest thing is that, I think Georgia could make a claim, because I mean, if they do lose, and let's just say they lose to Florida, and then they lose at the end of the year to Georgia Tech, of those 3 losses, I think the Alabama one the committee will forgive, so to speak. The Georgia Tech one possibly, if they go on to win the ACC. That Florida one might keep them out. So it gives even more importance, in my opinion, to this football game between these two programs. And at the same time, too, for Georgia, it's Mississippi State after that, as you just mentioned, Texas after that. So to me, they're in a position to where they should be favored in the next 3 games for sure. Can they take it one game at a time?
Right, and they're going up against a guy that at this point last year really started to turn it up in DJ Lagway.
That's right.
And that's the dangerous thing for Florida. For Georgia. I know we talked earlier in the week on this show about, second half teams and stuff like that. I believe I asked Parker Ream if Texas A&M was a second half team. I feel like DJ Lagway is a second half of the year type player.
Right.
It takes him some time to warm up, so to speak, but he can do some serious damage right now. Obviously, Florida really just trying to play for a bowl berth and their interim head coach at this point.
Right.
But, I mean, they have a good opportunity coming up here to play spoiler for a few teams, Georgia being one of them.
Yeah, Georgia being one, Ole Miss obviously being another one, Tennessee, and they end the year with Florida State, of course, in their natural rivalry game. But we talked about at the beginning of the season just how rough and tough this schedule is. They've taken it head on, so to speak. They haven't really been rolled in any game. The Texas A&M was a 17-point game. The Texas game, obviously, they won, lost to Miami 26-7. They're not getting rolled off the field. It hasn't been embarrassing losses. It was enough for Billy Napier to lose his job, but it's not enough, in my opinion, to dissuade people from coming to this program. This program is in a different position to me than maybe Penn State. Now, Penn State hasn't been rolled, but Penn State feels a little off. LSU got trounced last week by Texas A&M. That's not the same case with this Florida team. There's still a lot of life in this program.
Yeah, and I mean, there are 2 losses for me that really stick out. It's one, the USF loss.
Yes.
And it was just an unfortunate loss, but you could almost feel like it was coming because of how USF was playing Florida in the recent years. But then I go to the LSU loss. You threw 5 interceptions, and you only lost by 10. I mean, even if you just throw 2 or 3, you probably still win that game.
Right.
And we could still be talking about Billy Napier might still have his job right now. Who knows what could have happened. But I think it's really the USF loss that's going to come back and haunt this team from making, honestly, a bowl game at this point.
You're right. And you mentioned it had they beat South Florida, because all 3 of these games, the South Florida game, they scored 16. The LSU game, they scored 10. The Miami game, they scored 7. Those are back-to-back-to-back weeks. And the offense, as you mentioned, just could not really get it rolling until Texas came to town. And then he did start rolling. And then you see those numbers for DJ Lagway, more than 800 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions as he comes into this one and looking to stay hot. And as Patrick mentioned, try to make a bowl game. They go from one Billy to another Billy Napier to Billy Gonzalez, who is the interim head coach for this football program. We got a chance to hear from him this week.
He did a great job last week. He did a great job. He's done a great job all year, to be honest with you. He's strong. He's big. He can tote the rock. And then again, like I said, for him, it's just about get him in a rhythm. Let the offensive coordinator get him in a rhythm. Let Coach O'Hara call the plays, get him in in a rhythm, and then obviously Coach Jaluk coaching him up, and he can make those plays. He gives you an added receiver in the pass game as well, whether it's coming out of the backfield or splitting out or motioning him. He's a fantastic player. I coach him in the punt return and kick return game, so I know what kind of athleticism that he has. He's got phenomenal hands. He's for a big guy that as a running back, I don't know if I've ever been around a guy that has that type of ball skill for a big receiver, for a big running back.
And that was Coach Billy Gonzalez talking about Jaden Ball, who is their primary running back. But then also at the same time, too, I mean, you have a lot of big playmakers really on both sides of this football team for Florida. We'll see if they can play spoiler. Let's move on to the Georgia side really quickly. For this Georgia team, they find themselves in a really interesting situation. But in my opinion, of all the teams that are in the mix to lay claim to a spot in the college football playoff, to me, Georgia, if Georgia just plays like Georgia, they should win out. And like you said, the Georgia Tech game could get tricky towards the end. But to me, I like their road probably more than any other team in the top 10 right now.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Florida. You go to Starkville, take on Mississippi State. You host Texas. You've already gotten your 2 open weeks out of the way. You host Texas. Who knows if Arch is going to come back from the concussion and still still get back on track. I feel like at the end of the Mississippi State game, he really found who we all thought Arch was going to be. And then you host Charlotte, and then the Georgia Tech game is the other one that sticks out to me. But in my opinion, one of the guys that's sneakily having a really good year this year, and nobody's really talking about him, is Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, we've talked about all the quarterbacks in the SEC. For Alabama, it was obviously Ty Simpson. For Missouri, it was Bo Perbula. Obviously, we talked about some of the setbacks that we've seen from DJ Lagway and Garrett Nussmeier. To me, Gunnar Stockton, and this might be for one reason, and I'll highlight it in a second, he hasn't been talked about all that much as far as the Heisman Trophy and all the major awards. Steadily the MVP, though, in my opinion, of this football team because of the way he's able to lead.
Right.
But just like his personality, he's not a very rambunctious guy. He's not a very loud guy. He's a very calm, quiet, collected guy. And his personality shows up on the field as well, and they don't really get out to great starts. So you kind of see him at the end making plays, but he doesn't put up the dynamite numbers, and so you don't necessarily, get those high flying plays, so to speak, those highlight level plays. But he's been sensational this year.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if he threw the ball more, he would probably be up there with Ty Simpson. I mean, you take a look at the comparison. Ty Simpson's thrown 61 more passes and has 600 more yards, but they both have 1 interception. I mean, goodness, Ty Simpson, 20-1 touchdown interception.
Insane.
That's just unreal.
That's insane.
But Gunner's better throwing the ball or completing passes. He's better running the ball, 7 rush touchdowns. So, I mean, he's got 17 total touchdowns to 1 interception. I don't believe he's fumbled the ball too much, if at all. So, I mean, he's just sneakily, he's going to work. He's just doing his job. He's just trying to help this football team win. And I think, honestly, if the defense were able to get to the quarterback a little bit more often and be able to have these lower scoring games, I feel like we would talk about Gunner a little bit more because Georgia would probably be winning these games by 20, 30 points.
Right, and it feels like with Kirby Smart teams, it's almost like early Nick Saban where you don't necessarily have to have the quarterback be the explosive guy on the team because they're going to have a running game, some dynamic weapons on offense, whether it's a tight end, Brock Bowers, a couple others, some guys on the outside, or it's the defense really leading things. So it feels like a typical Georgia Kirby Smart football team, and they'll go over to Jacksonville to play the Florida Gators. We got a chance to hear from Kirby Smart about the rivalry.
Not a lot. I mean, we talk about the things that are facts about the history of the game, which are like, the team that rushes, the team that does this, the team that things that are obvious, explosive plays. You have more explosive plays than them, you're probably going to win. You have less turnovers than them, you're probably going to win. If you rush the ball better, you've got a good chance of winning. There's things that are facts about that, and then there's things that are just part of history. And to be honest with you, I'm focused on what we got to do to play well and be at our best, and I think we control that.
Of course, the coaching situation across the country has been absolutely insane. We sit here on the doorstep of Halloween, and next thing you know, you have two high-profile jobs, in my opinion, Florida and LSU, and then another high-profile job out of the SEC in Penn State, all open, Oklahoma State, and a few others. And it's really weird and interesting because in the SEC, we could see a few more. We already have Arkansas, potential for Kentucky.
Yes.
Potential
it
for
could
Auburn.
be this weekend.
Right. Exactly. And so I find it interesting that the kind of the one of the veteran guys that's in the coaching profession right now is Kirby Smart. It feels like he just got there to Athens, even though he's been there for a decade. Same thing with Lane Kiffin and a few others. What do you make here of Kirby Smart, his tenure there in Georgia, and now him kind of being, if what happens at Kentucky, think it's going to happen at Kentucky, what this means for him in the SEC moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have openly stated on the show a few times that you think if Mark Stoops were to get fired by Kentucky, Kirby would come in and be like, hey, you wanna come work for me? You wanna come restart your career? And then Kirby try to be what Nick Saban was to so many coaches. I mean, it is possible, but it always feels like even if Georgia doesn't have the talent that they always do. Coming into this year, everyone thought Georgia was going to be a down year for the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to Gunnar Stockton, you didn't really see much of him. He played against Notre Dame. I honestly thought he played pretty well in that game against Notre Dame. But there were just so many question marks, especially on the D line, which we've seen how that has panned out this year. But it just always feels like whenever Kirby Smart is at the helm of a program, they're always in contention, even if they don't have the greatest talent.
Yeah, and here lately, I mean, they've obviously had good talent, but now on the precipice of being able to be one of those teams that's on the upper echelon once again of college football. We got a chance to hear from Kirby Smart about LSU head coach Brian Kelly, former LSU head coach Brian Kelly's firing there. Here's his comments on the former Bayou Bengals head coach.
I don't know. I mean, it's the world we live in. Everybody's got a voice. Everybody listens to somebody. A lot of, I don't know enough about that situation, to be honest with you. That specific situation. I think you're asking a general view, but I don't know enough about what's going on over there. Got enough things to worry about in our own house, and that's what I focus on. It's obviously a tough situation on everybody. I mean, let's be honest. It's the players dealing with it, fans dealing with it, coaches dealing with it at this time in the middle of a season. I think there's so much built around the playoffs, and it's like everything's boom or bust, and you can't have a normal season. People got to make decisions earlier based on how somebody does, and I don't know enough about it. I know it's high expectations. I coached at LSU, and a guy once told me, he said, that office you're in, that's not your office. You're borrowing it. And I knew right then that if you didn't win, you wouldn't be there long.
He definitely has the credentials. As you heard, he coached at LSU, and really interesting comment there at the end that you don't own that spot. It is rented. As of right now, there is a vacancy as Brian Kelly is now gone. And LSU looks for a new head coach. Some really interesting comments from the governor about that. We'll get to that later in our show. Stick with us here. We're heading over to Arkansas coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. We heard from Georgia head coach just a moment ago about the LSU opening, and we have talked about openings all over college football. Oh, one of the first, actually the first in the SEC, was the Arkansas Razorbacks job. And you can say that there might have been a knock-on effect, a domino effect, so to speak, since that has been open. And we now bring on our good friend Courtney Mims out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Courtney, I like the space here, a little different background here. I love it. Where are you these days?
Yeah, so this is our secondary studio here.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different than the blue studio I'm in. So this one's kind of cool too, though.
Yeah, I like it. It looks good. We want to start right there with the coaching search. We'll get to the nitty-gritty of the football here in a second. But for the Arkansas Razorbacks, from a fan perspective and from a general, I guess, college football observer perspective, where is this coaching search as of right now? Do you think the train is moving at all? And if so, how fast? I know it's kind of maybe a clunky metaphor, but like if one thing is going, let's say like Oklahoma State is going, maybe 100 miles an hour to find their guy, where is Arkansas right now?
Yeah, I think Arkansas is at a good pace. They wanted to be, I mean, you mentioned all the other openings in the SEC. I think by being the first, they were trying to get a jump on things. Now, with all of these other openings, you're kind of going, well, Arkansas, I wish you were in a better place right now, because now all of these other jobs have opened and it doesn't feel like you're any further along when it comes to finding the next head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. And what I mean by that is because we started with, and I went on the show, I started with, hey, they're targeting a former Razorback and a Northwest Arkansas native in Rhett Lashley over at SMU. Well, things changed from that, okay? Then it went to, well, Bobby played some really close games between Tennessee and Texas A&M, and both ranked opponents, and they looked better than they have this season. So then it changed to, okay, wait a second, does Bobby Petrino have a chance to get this job now? And now it's even changed even further, because the last time we spoke, I said, it was before the Auburn game, and I said, hey, if he wins this game, he's got to still be in the conversation. And now, unfortunately, Bobby Petrino is no longer in that conversation, or maybe fortunately for people who are Razorback fans and said, there's no way he needs to be the next head coach. So I think right now we're at a place where we're going, okay, we've heard a lot about James Franklin, and we knew he was on their target sheet. We knew that. We knew that once he was fired from Penn State, he was going to get a call. We didn't hear much from both camps there, because maybe they were pursuing the Bobby angle. Maybe they weren't ready to continue conversations with him if Bobby was going to be the next head coach. And so now we feel like, okay, well, Bobby is no longer going to be considered, it sounds like, from everything that my sources say. So is the James Franklin talk a little bit more substantial now? Well, you know that they want to target him. You know that, hey, that's who they're looking at. It seems like to me they have made an offer, or they've been in talks and they've communicated what they are willing to offer him. But then you've also got to worry about Virginia Tech, because that came out at the same time as that news for Arkansas. And so if you're asking me right now, I'm thinking, just based off of what people have told me and what people have said, that it sounds like James Franklin is a little bit further along with Virginia Tech. Now, could this be an old Jimmy Sexton, little plan to maybe get his client more money? Yes, it could. You are exactly right there. It could be that. We have seen that before at Arkansas. Other places have seen that with Jimmy Sexton's clients. So we don't really know right now. That's the best update I can give you guys, is we don't really know. We know that James Franklin has been targeted. It was the number one option last week, or going into this week, I should say. And Virginia Tech is trying to battle with the Hogs on who will get James Franklin. And right now, I don't like Arkansas's chances, but hey, maybe they'll surprise me.
Courtney, so you're saying even if Bobby Petrino is able to win this week's game against Mississippi State and still somehow sneak out another, you still think that Arkansas is going to go in a different direction?
I believe so. And I believe it's because it's not just about the wins at this point, right? That Auburn game was atrocious.
Yeah.
Atrocious.
Yeah.
And if you're an Arkansas fan, here was my thing. If the defense was the one who lost you the ball game, okay, well, the defense has played bad all year. And Bobby, that's not your expertise, right? But your expertise is offense. You claimed that you were on the right track with the offense, and they looked abysmal in that game. They were the reason you lost. Let's be honest. They were the reason you lost. The defense played a whole lot better, and the offense regressed. And so I think that was 100% on Bobby Petrino. And I think that's what made Arkansas fans and Arkansas boosters say, you know what, this maybe isn't the option. We need to get someone in that is new, that is fresh, that is energetic, that re-energizes this fan base, because as you guys know, and as we've talked about on this show, they need someone to come in and have people get excited so that they give money and that the financial situation gets better at Arkansas. It's not great right now, but it can get better.
Absolutely. We have talked before, and as we tossed around names when this thing first opened up, it seemed like it was going to be one of two camps. Maybe a guy that has been already in the Power Four, so to speak, that has like a guy like James Franklin and a few others. And then in the other bucket of people were guys that were in the group of five. And I remember our initial conversations had guys like John Summerall in there. There's other guys out of the group of five who've really shown themselves to be worth it over the last few weeks. And just from a philosophical standpoint, where do you see this program wanting to go with their next guy? Do you think that they want to go with experience? Do you think they want to go with maybe some new hope in a younger guy, maybe from not the Power Four?
I honestly think they're going to go with whoever they feel is going to put the university in the best position to succeed when it comes to all sports, right? And we're talking about football too there, but also you've got to fit into that system. You've got John Calipari coaching your basketball team.
Right.
You've got Dave Van Horn coaching your baseball team. You've got legendary coaches all throughout campus here at the University of Arkansas. I mean, we can even go to gymnastics. Former Olympian Jordan Weber coaches the gymnastics team here. So you have legendary coaches here. Right? And so I think somebody to fit with that is who they'll go for. Now, I don't think that excludes a guy like John Summerall. I know they were looking at him because that guy has proven himself that he can go to different programs, two now. He's done it at two, not one, but two, that he can turn around a program and very quickly. And that's what Arkansas needs. So whether it's a guy like him who maybe I guess it wouldn't excite the fan base like a name like, I don't know, like John Gruden, right? I mean, you go and hire somebody like that, that's going to be like, whoa, okay, that's a crazy hire there. But it may not be somebody like that. It may not be a James Franklin. It may be a group of five guy who has proven themselves to be in the conversation. I do know this, though. I don't think they want to hire someone who is an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator who has not been a head coach. I think Sam Pittman maybe put a little sour taste in some people's mouths of not having any head coaching experience and being an assistant coach. I think maybe they've decided, hey, we do want to go for someone who has had head coaching experience at some level, right? I mean, just some sort of head coaching experience on their resume.
Absolutely. Before we turn to the court real quick, I literally just want one answer, a yes or no. Does the Arkansas football team get its first SEC win of the season on Saturday?
Yes.
She said it very, very sheepishly. I do. Okay. So we'll move to basketball now because it's 2-0 for the league teams right now. I do think that Arkansas gets a win, but we'll see how that all shakes out. I do want to talk some basketball with you because the preseason All SEC team came out. There's a lot of hype for Coach John Calipari entering year two. A lot of meat on the bones left, so to speak, of what happened last year at the NCAA tournament. What do you make of this year's squad with Coach Cal and, like you said, one of the great many coaches that are there on campus?
Well, this year, and I'm not trying to say this because I think a lot of people are excited for basketball season here and are just ready to get football season over with, but I really do think This is the perfect team to get excited about. I mean, how could you not? Because you look at this roster up and down, guys, and they returned so much production, scoring production. I believe it's at the top in the SEC that they returned because they got back Trevin Brazile, Carter Knox, they got back Billy Richmond, and they got back DJ Wagner as well. And so that is a lot that you're returning there. And so Calipari felt good about those guys coming back. Not only that, they added some great pieces from the portal. Nick Pringle, you might recognize him. He played at Alabama. He played at South Carolina. This is a guy with so much SEC experience that you've added to your squad. You also got Malik Ewan over from FSU. He's a big, but guys, he can play every position. He's a big that plays like a guard. It's just, it's crazy to watch him play, and I hope they get him going as well. And I have to talk about the freshmen. Oh my gosh, Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. These guys are so good. Yeah, these guys, yeah. I'm telling you, if you're not an Arkansas fan, just watch one game, because watching these guys, I don't know how Calipari did it. He said, you know what? I'm going to go out and get 2 5-stars. I'm going to go out and get 2 McDonald's All-Americans, and he might have gotten the 2 very best of the bunch in these guys. They are so good. Malik Thomas, I've said to people, he reminds me of Kobe Bryant. I know that's a big comparison, wow. But he can score in every single way. He can score in every single way. This is a guy with overtime elite who averaged, I believe it was 32 points a game. That was a guy with overtime elite averaging 32 points a game. And here's the best part about him. Guys, with freshmen, usually they're in this mindset of where they'll take a shot, they'll miss it, and then it'll get in their head, right? It'll go, oh, man, I missed a shot. I'm not going to make another one. He doesn't have that. He's fearless. He misses the shot. He'll go down, try again, make it. You know, it's just, it doesn't affect him.
Like goldfish mentality.
Like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's like he just forgot about that. Missed the shot, fine, doesn't matter. And that's why I compare him to like a guy like Kobe Bryant, because it's like you can score in so many different ways. You have a high basketball IQ, not to mention he's a tough defender as well. It can do many, like he had 4 steals in their game the other night with Memphis. He's all over the court. He's just a dog. And so again, there's a lot of reasons to get excited about this team, y'all. I just talked about the freshmen. I just talked about the returners, the newcomers from the transfer portal. A lot of reasons to get excited. This is a team that can make a very deep run when it comes to March. I'm serious. And I know this is a team that went to the Sweet 16 last year. I think they go even further. I'm going to say it right now. I think they go further.
Ooh, wow. Bold. Wow. And if anybody that knows how to get them there, it is Coach Cal. And I think that this refresh has been phenomenal for him. Got off to a great start in year 1. We'll see what's ahead in year 2. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Thanks, guys. Always enjoy coming on.
Absolutely. Enjoy having you on. Courtney Mims out of Arkansas, laying her intelligence and her acumen and her deep sources to both football and basketball. But you said it. Hot take right there. And that's a nice little hot take. I'm going to write that down during the break.
Yes.
Because we haven't tipped off games yet. And if they do make a deep run, we got to bring that back to her.
Yeah, and we're going to have to bring her back on because Arkansas has got a big one next weekend. Going up to East Lansing, taking on Michigan State. The Izzone.
I know. That's to me is a really interesting matchup. We always talk about quarterback matchups in the NFL. That's a great head coaching matchup.
Oh,
that baseline is so chock full of great coaches with Izzo on one side, Cal on the other side. Great non-conference matchup to start the college basketball season. Keep it right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We are headed over to talk to some Auburn and Georgia coming up next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, hour number 1 on a Thursday continues with our good friend Jack Patterson, who holds down the fort there in Columbus. Jack, obviously we have seen this Auburn football team since the preseason when we saw Jackson Arnold, strutting through Atlanta at SEC Media Days. He had just got to campus a few, weeks before, essentially, from the transfer portal. Now, seemingly, he's out of a job. He started the game against Arkansas, but Ashton Daniels finished the game. Auburn comes away with the win. What'd you make of Auburn's performance and being able to finally get over the hump in the SEC?
Couple things. One, Auburn can't pay DJ Durkin enough money.
Yeah, it's okay? So true.
Like, that's number one. Because Auburn doesn't win that game if it's not for the defense,
yep.
Okay? So, they can't pay DJ Durkin enough money. And secondly is that, Hugh Freeze did what he had to do. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that you have to understand is that, Ashton Daniels came into the game and he wasn't, groundbreaking, okay? He didn't do anything that, made you go ooh and ah, right? What he did do is he didn't lose the game for Auburn.
Yeah.
And that's what that team needed sorely. He took them down to the field. While they couldn't get touchdowns, they got field goals. Alex McPherson, that's another name that we need to talk about too, because he had a phenomenal game.
Yeah,
he had a disastrous game against Missouri,
right?
But 6 for 6 last week. Auburn doesn't win that game without him either. So, like I said, it's a combination of things, okay? The defense played lights out. They bailed the offense out when they needed it, and they had to have Alex McPherson play a great game, and man, did he ever.
Absolutely. It's complementary football. You mentioned the defense, the special teams, then the offense coming through with Ashton Daniels. Now, starting last week, all before this week, it was all we believe in Jackson, we believe in Jackson, we believe in Jackson. And then the Arkansas week comes. Prior to last week, coach is like, hey, giving both guys reps at practice. We see how the game played out. Now that the game has played out, coach is using the same rhetoric this week. Hey, we're obviously giving these guys reps in practice. What do you think transpires at the end of this week and going into game day against Kentucky?
Gerhard, I'll be honest, man. I'll be surprised if I see Jackson Arnold starting on Saturday night. Wow. I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't think you can go backwards unless there's extenuating circumstances like injury or something like that. I don't think you can go backwards here. It's not so, like I said, it's not so much that, Daniels, was a world beater, okay? But it's the fact that he was able to do what Jackson hasn't been able to do, and that's got the offense to a win.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And, that's something that Jackson has not been able to do. So, and I said this, when I was on here pre-Arkansas, and I'll say this again, that win bought Hugh Freeze a week, okay?
That's a good way to put it.
A week because, it's great that Auburn beat Arkansas. They're back to 500. But now you have to beat Kentucky, because what's the one thing that is worse than losing to Arkansas on the road? That's losing to Kentucky at home.
Yeah, no question. It almost feels like deja vu with Jackson Arnold, because remember last year at Oklahoma, he starts the season, he's turnover prone. Michael Hawkins Jr. comes in, he replaces him at Auburn. By the way, it was in the Auburn game he got replaced last year. Then Michael Hawkins Jr. suffers an injury. Jackson Arnold comes back, he beats Alabama 24-3 in that game. And that's what is the impetus to give Auburn to say, hey, look, we like this guy, Jackson Arnold. And now Arnold's going back to the bench. But what I take from what you just said, you think if, number one, Ashton does start, which you think he will, I do too, you think that there's not a way for Jackson to come back unless it is an injury, correct?
Yeah, agree. Because I don't think that Auburn's going to burn the red shirt for Deuce Knight.
Yeah.
So I think the only way that Jackson Arnold sees the field again is if, and Lord forbid, don't want anybody to get hurt, but is if Ashton Daniels were to get injured. I think that's the only way that happens. Right. I don't think that you can go back to him, you can't go back to him when he produced something that Jackson hasn't produced since mid-September, and that's a win.
Absolutely. Forgive the pun here, but Rayshawn Pleasant has been unbelievably a pleasant surprise about not only stepping up to Power 4, the transfer from Tulane. He comes in and he is not only a dynamo on special teams. We've seen that. We saw that in New Orleans when he was at Tulane. but he's been a dynamo on defense as well. He's the reigning, the Jim Thorpe Award National Defensive Back of the Week, had the pick 6, had another interception in this game. How huge was he in that secondary? You praised DJ Durkin earlier. How huge were they in this comeback, and how much can they lean on him moving forward?
Let's be real about it, Gerhard. If it wasn't for that secondary, if it wasn't for DJ Durkin's defense, Hugh Freeze might be on the unemployment line right now.
That's so true.
That's the honest to goodness truth. Okay, so it's really the reason why, I'm not going to say the reason, but a major reason why Auburn beat Arkansas on Saturday. And it's because they turned the tide. The first half wasn't exactly Auburn's best work. They gave up 17 first half points. But at the same time, they shut that Arkansas offense down. And, record aside, Arkansas had one of the best offenses in the SEC going into the game. Okay? One of the best in the SEC, one of the best in the country, and held them to 3 points in the second half. Okay? Like I said, for everything that, we say that Auburn defense is a major reason why they won. And now, is, good news for Hugh Freeze, because he can, take a step back and say, okay, let's focus on Kentucky. And I think if Auburn comes away with a win against Kentucky, I'm not going to say he's off the hot seat, but let's just say they turn it down a few degrees, okay?
Buys himself 2 weeks instead of 1.
Exactly. You get until, you go up against Vandy, that's going to be a tough game on the road, but it buys you a little more time, you know what I mean? And, that defense, I've said it on this show before, and I'll say it again. In my mind, that is a national championship defense.
For sure.
I really, truly believe that.
For sure.
It's just, can the offense catch up?
Yep, one of 6 teams in the FBS to allow 25 points or fewer throughout the course of the season. So you're right, this defense is electric and elite, and it led to the comeback win. Got a chance to hear from Hugh Freeze about that.
I don't know that I could really express in words how rewarding, fulfilling, good to see, because it would, in a lot of people's cases, that would have been easy to say the here we go again syndrome. I actually asked our staff, and staff may know, who had that feeling on the pick 6 of here we go again, and everybody was honest, I think. But man, at halftime, I thought the staff was remarkable. I thought Keldrick Falk and Champ and Jeremiah, not Connor Lou, but Jeremiah Cobb, and I thought all those guys were, look, we are, they haven't stopped us yet. We are going to find a way to win this football game. And defensively, the plays we gave, the explosive plays, were just us with bad eyes. And let's get it fixed and go find a way to win the game.
Jack, before we look at the rest of the season, something sticks out to me about this Kentucky game, and it's the fact that Auburn is favored by 11.5 points. First, I just want to get your reaction to that, and then second, do you think there's any possible chance that they can cover that?
Yes, and you want to know why? The Auburn defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I could easily see this game finishing 17-6.
Yeah, right.
I could easily see that happening.
Jack, I think I said yesterday that Kentucky's not going to score a touchdown in this game.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't.
I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would not be surprised if they didn't. And it's the level that this team has played all season long. And it doesn't matter the opponent, okay? We've seen them play against, the lower tier schools, and they've been fantastic, but we've also seen them hold Georgia's offense in check. We've also seen them we just mentioned how good Arkansas's offense was going into that game. Held them to 3 points in the second half.
Right.
This defense has been battle tested, and they've answered the call every single time.
Absolutely.
So, as far as Kentucky is concerned, in Kentucky, let's just be real. It hadn't been a great season in Lexington. The grocery store has been the shelves have been kind of bare over at Kroger Field, okay? And, it's not going to get any easier going up against this Auburn defense.
Absolutely. Let's do on the flip side of that. This Kentucky defense has also been really good as well. I mean, they held Texas in check for the most part. Last year, they handed Georgia a really close game, 13-12 there in that matchup. What do you feel that Hugh Freeze and the defense will have to do against Mark Stoops? You mentioned they don't have to score a lot of points in the football game, but what do you think they'll have to do Saturday to execute to be able to get a comfortable enough lead for the defense to hold on to?
Finish drives.
Yeah.
Yes.
They've got to finish drives. And for the love of all things good, run the ball.
I know.
Okay?
I mean,
Jeremiah Cobb has been fantastic, okay? And then, a lot of people say, well, okay, who do you go to after Jeremiah Cobb is gone? Because, Damari Alston's no longer with the program.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. There's a kid on the team named Omar Mabson. I've seen him personally. He played at Auburn High School, and he is fantastic. He's going to be, when Jeremiah goes off to the pros, he's going to be the next guy right there with Alvin Henderson that's going to be manning that backfield. Run the ball. It doesn't matter if it's Jeremiah Cobb. It doesn't matter if it's Omar Mabson, or even if you get Henderson involved. It doesn't matter. Run the ball. Can I say that again? Run the ball.
Absolutely run the ball. Even though you have one of the best wide receivers out there. Final thing with you here. It looks like Cam Coleman, it might be iffy. Hugh Freeze gave some positive thoughts about it, saying that he hopes he's good to go. Some reports yesterday saying that Cam Coleman could be in doubt there. What's the latest that you know? And do you think that even if he's questionable, just hold him out for a week? Because like you said, the game plan will be to run the football and just get through this game against Kentucky and try to give him another week to get healed up.
I think Gerhard, I've heard the same thing you have, and to be honest, I say if there was ever a week that you're gonna hold them out, this would be that week.
Mm-hmm.
You've got talent around, okay. You still got Eric Singleton. You still got all different kinds of talent on that wide receiver room that's around. Fill those gaps, and then like I said, your primary effort should be running the ball against this Kentucky defense. Okay. So I think you can do that because you're going to need Cam later this season, okay? You're going to need Cam when you go up against Vanderbilt. You're going to need Cam when you go up against Alabama. So I say this is an opportunity where be a little bit on the precautious side, hold them out, and then, get healthy and get ready for this stretch run because this is going to be an important stretch run for Auburn. Hugh Freeze is going to be coaching for his job, okay? And you need to be able to get those wins, have your talent out there to get those wins, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because the ceiling for this team right now is 8-4 in a bowl win. I think that if they can run the table, I think that Hugh Freeze has nothing to worry about going into 2026, okay? Right. But if you lose, against Vandy or you lose against Alabama, or Lord forbid you lose against Kentucky, problems.
Big ones.
Jack,
Big ones.
I'm just going to come out and say something. I think even if you lose some of these games, I still think he's good because to me, it just depends on how the offense looks. It feels like they're always going to have a good defense. But if the offense can finally figure it out, and even if there's these close losses, like one-score losses, but yeah, they put up 30 points, I feel like he's coming back next year. Because that tells me that he's starting to figure it out, whether it is with Ashton Daniels or if somehow Jackson Arnold comes in and maybe they save him for the Alabama game, be Gus Malzahn 2.0. Yeah, let me just get my season all in check, and then let's just go out and beat Alabama.
I mean, Patrick, as much as I kind of agree with you there, I've known Auburn to be trigger happy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's what gives me pause about going in that direction is that do they wait? Now, granted, I've also heard the argument, too, is we've already seen 3 top-tier programs jobs open up. We've seen LSU open up. We've seen Florida open up. We've also seen Arkansas open up. So it's going to be, does Auburn want to compete with those schools, in search of a head coach, too? That plays a role, too. But I like the point that you made simply because it's been what I've been preaching all year long. And it's what we haven't seen from this Auburn offense. And that's progress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I guarantee you, people are not as up in arms as they are if the offense was showing progress, showing, progression and, scoring more points, okay? Being more competitive. Like, granted, Auburn's been competitive in a lot of games this year, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
But the one thing they have all in common, besides the fact that they were one-score games, is that the offense, I want to say, scored less than 20 points in all those games.
Yep.
So that's a problem, okay?
Yeah.
Which goes to tell me is that if you had a middle-of-the-road offense, we'd be talking about Auburn as potentially a player in the college football playoff race.
Yes. That's exactly right. That's what I've been saying for the last few weeks now. I was like, hey, if Auburn just had an average offense, not even a good offense, you could have an average offense, they'd be right in the thick of the college football playoff talk. Jack, you are awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's a busy time for you, the end of the high school football season, some softball right now going on your way, as well as college football. Thank you so much for your time today, buddy.
Hey, we cover everything down here, Gerhard. Appreciate it, fellas.
Absolutely. We'll see you down the road. Jack Patterson joining us from Columbus, Georgia here. I think it's really interesting with Auburn because he kind of echoes what we've been saying here about this offense. And we're saying if Auburn if they can have an average offense, if is a short word, but it's a big word, can Ashton Daniels be that guy to lead them to an average offense?
And honestly, I really do feel like he could come in and just be a spark, like a spark off the bench.
Right.
I'm going to stick by my point. If Auburn can show something on offense, I don't care what happens in these games. Hugh Freeze is going to be here next year because they're starting to progress. The offense has been the problem. It hasn't been the defense. You know you're going to have a good defense with DJ Durkin.
Yep, showing the progression. That's what they're doing, and that's what they're trying to do this week. Back on the Plains against the Kentucky Wildcats there. So 6:30 kickoff there in Auburn. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we wrap up hour number 1. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we don't know who will be in the college football playoff this year. We don't know who will be in it next year or in 2029, but we do now know where these games will be held. The college football playoff announcing that Tampa Bay will serve as the host site for the 2029 College Football National Championship game. Now, it's only the 4th city to earn the right to host the CFP title game. It joins Atlanta, the New Orleans area, as well as Miami, Miami Gardens, essentially. They're in that area as well. I really love this pick here because it's another pro stadium.
Yes.
And in my opinion, it is a great host site. We bragged about New Orleans a little while ago. I think Tampa's kind of in that same boat, a great host town.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I've been to Tampa.
That's right, yeah.
It used to be every year, we'd go down, take a vacation, catch the Lightning. I think Tampa's a great area, but I mean, this is just great news for the Southeast because if you look at the next four, they have 3 of the 4. You got South Florida, it's going to Hard Rock next year, Allegiant Stadium over in Vegas, and then New Orleans, which we talked about earlier this month on the show, and then Tampa Bay getting it in 29. I mean, just great times.
Absolutely. Leave that graphic up because one of the big things that sticks out to me about this, 3 of those, South Florida, obviously people live there.
Yes.
New Orleans, people live there. Tampa, people live there. Those are residential areas. Las Vegas, people live there, but that is a tourist town.
Right.
They built Vegas for things like this.
Yeah, and I mean
that lets you know even more how much it is for the Southeast.
Yeah, and I mean we just saw it with the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Tourist city, Las Vegas, hosting the Super Bowl. We'll see how that translates over to the College Football National Championship game. But, yeah, I'm really excited to see Tampa getting to host in 29.
Yep, Tampa in 29, 28. As you said, you have New Orleans, 27. It will be Allegiant Stadium there in Las Vegas. Who knows? Will it still stay a 12-team playoff by that point? Well, it might be 16, might be 24.
Well, I tell you what, Matt Rule, who just got a nice contract extension this morning, there was part in his contract where it's like if they make the playoff, if it's bigger than 16 teams, he gets a different raise.
That's right. So we'll see a lot of stipulations there in all those contracts. Keep it right here. Southeast Sports Plus continues after the break.
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone and Gerhard Mathangani.
We are not going down a failed path. And I wanted to tell you something. This is a pattern. The guy that's here now that wrote that contract cost Texas A&M $70-something million. Right now, we got a $53 million liability. We are not doing that again. And you know what? I believe that we're going to find a great coach. I mean, maybe we'll let President Trump pick it. He loves winners. You know? I'm not going to be picking the next coach. But I can promise you, we're going to pick a coach, and we're going to make sure that that coach is successful, and we're going to make sure that he's compensated properly, and we're going to put metrics on it. No. I can tell you right now, Scott Woodward is not selecting the next coach. Hell, I'll let Donald Trump select it before I let him do it. Who will be? I don't know, but the Board of Supervisors is going to come up with a committee, and they're going to go find us a coach.
Mark that up to Exhibit A for things you just don't hear a lot.
That's a press conference you hear in the midst of the offseason.
Right.
When there's just nothing to talk about.
Nothing else going on.
And, like, you just need something to get you through the dog days of summer. But that's incredible.
The governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, making it known and making it clear that the guy that was hired to do this, to hire coaches, that's his job. Scott Woodward would not be doing so, even invoking President Trump in the mix of saying, hey, I'd have President Trump do it because he's been hiring a whole bunch of coaches. Now, obviously, that he was using that as a joke, but it just lets you know how much that people are frustrated with the decision makers at LSU. Of course, they were frustrated with Brian Kelly because he wasn't winning on the field. But this goes to another level that I have never seen. I can say that I've just literally, unilaterally never seen a public official from a governor's standpoint tell a state-owned university, hey, you know what? Your AD is not making this decision.
I'm honestly shocked that the LSU AD, Scott Woodward, is responsible for $130 million worth of buyouts because he was over at Texas A&M and gave Jimbo Fisher that 10-year, $90 million extension that now Texas A&M still on the books for $76.8 million. I mean, look how it worked out for them, though. They got Mike Elko out of it. But still, how does he still have a job right now?
That's insane. That is insane. And I will say, hey, it's kind of glass half empty, half full. I'll give him 2 lines of credit here. He did hire Kim Mulkey, the women's basketball coach. He did hire Jay Johnson to lead the LSU baseball team. Both have come back to Baton Rouge for national championships. But you're right. Football is the straw that stirs the drink, really, at all schools, especially there in Baton Rouge. And he is now struck out twice with Texas A&M and with LSU.
Look, honestly, just hire a guy, a director of football operations,
right,
like
exactly.
Like a general manager. We see general managers now
all the time.
Good friend here, Jim Nagy over at Oklahoma. Yep. Just hire someone like that who can just focus on the football program. Because clearly, Scott Woodward, you're good at hiring coaches in other sports.
Right.
It's just football. You're 0 for 2. And now you're responsible for universities owing a boatload of money to these coaches to do nothing.
This is one of the things, I just thought about that as you were talking. It might be a situation where if you come out in one regard and say, hey, look, the football team will have to almost run itself like by itself, like as its own entity, its own money-making entity, and maybe have your athletic director be the head of every other sport outside of football. Do you think a situation like that could work?
Yeah, I mean, clearly he hasn't done well in football.
For sure, yes.
But as you mentioned, hired Jay Johnson, hired Kim Mulkey. Mm-hmm. He's good at finding coaches in other sports. Right. It's just for some reason it doesn't work in in football.
Right.
So honestly, I think the LSU football program basically already runs itself.
Absolutely.
With the popularity and how successful they've been. Obviously now we're starting to see the baseball team. Jay Johnson's got a great crew over there. That's right. And then Kim Mulkey just won the national championship, I believe, 2 years ago now?
2 years ago,
2 years ago now, yeah. So, I mean, they're doing just fine. But I just think you bring up a good point. I think the football team just needs to go be themselves. Go be their own entity. I mean, it already feels like they've got that aura around them anyways.
Correct.
So why don't they just actually go do it?
Right, and almost hire somebody that will be hiring that position, literally for football, because it will be a slippery slope and it will be a tricky road for whoever hires whoever in this cycle, because so many prominent jobs are now open, and now Brian Kelly will be in the mix of coaching candidates that are in the market for other head coaching jobs. There you see that Woodward not involved in the LSU hire, and this is primarily the reason why, is because Jimbo Fisher got 3/4 of I was about to say nearly $100 million, and then Brian Kelly about close to $500,000, nearly $500,000 there on that buyout. And once again, both those buyouts are not like James Franklin's, where they didn't come with a bunch of stipulations that made you think about being able to hire those guys or not. So whoever it will be, we don't know from Governor Landry who it will be or not. But in my situation, or from my standpoint, if he does hire somebody to hire this guy, and he mentioned a search committee and things like that, who do you think should be their target? Who do you think should be their number one?
For head coaching or?
For head coaching, that's right.
So it's a little bit interesting because I've been following the sports books, and the three most notable candidates, I mean, the first two are kind of expected, Lane Kiffin, John Summerall, but they think Joe Brady might be able to swing him away from the Bills and take the LSU head coaching job. So I was very candid yesterday. I don't think Lane Kiffin is going to leave Oxford. I will stick by that opinion right now. I think, honestly, the number one right now, if it were me, and I were the head of this committee that Jeff Landry put me in charge of, you have to go for John Summerall, number one, because he's right in your backyard.
Yeah, he's right there. Yeah.
And if you let him go to somewhere else in the SEC and he just goes and beats up on LSU, then everyone's going to be like, come on, man. He was right here. He's just in New Orleans.
Right.
I kind of like Joe Brady too, but at the same time, Bills aren't really doing too much on offense right now.
That's the biggest thing. With Joe Brady, to me, it's almost like a situation that you have with who was the offensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions, who's now, his name is slipping my mind, who's now the head coach in Chicago. Ben Johnson. So Ben Johnson was known as a scheme guy.
Yeah.
And then he's the OC, scheme guy, takes Detroit to great lengths, and now he's the head coach. And not necessarily it's going poorly in Chicago, but it's okay. It's average. To me, there's a certain gamble you take with an offensive coordinator of any kind, and you roll the dice as a head coach. We've seen Brady be excellent in college as an OC. We saw that with the 2019 team. Does that always translate to the next thing up with the squad as a head coach? I think that's always been the key there. We've seen it work, and we've seen it not work in a lot of these situations.
The thing that just scares me about Brady is, you look at the 2019 LSU National Championship. That the thing is, that's arguably the most loaded roster in college football history.
Probably the most talented team to ever walk college football.
I mean, what? Yeah. Terrence Marshall was the only one that really didn't have any success in the NFL.
Yeah.
And you look at what he's doing right now with Josh Allen. I mean, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir are your two best receivers.
Right. James Cook.
But, I mean, you got James Cook. Let James Cook.
Right.
He's having a great year. I believe he just ran for over 200 yards against the Panthers.
Yeah.
It just makes me a little bit uneasy, and that's why I feel like John Summerall is the perfect candidate. To me, they've got to go for a Group of 5 guy.
Okay, yeah.
I just see that, and I know, was it Trey yesterday that said he doesn't think this year, but next year we'll see a college football playoff team head coach leave for a different job.
Right.
Maybe roll the dice and you see it this year. I mean, I don't know if – I don't think Tulane's going to make the college football playoff. I think
they're on the outside looking in.
But the one that's in right now is Memphis and Ryan Silverfield. That might be a pretty good hire.
That might be a really good hire, and he has shown himself that he's ready to kind of talk some trash with the big boys. We've played that sound. You had that sound here on this program.
About Kirby Smart.
About Kirby and the cars and whatnot. No, he will be interesting. A lot of the Group of 5 guys will be interesting to see who takes that next step going into this year. Meanwhile, for LSU, there's got to be somebody to close out the season, and and it will be Frank Wilson closing out the season. I jotted down some notes because I wasn't very familiar with him as an assistant coach, but he's been everywhere, but he is a Louisiana guy through and through. He was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, played his high school obviously there in that area, but he also played at Nicholls State, which is right there in the Louisiana area. His head coaching or his coaching tenure has taken him all over. He went to Ole Miss, to Southern Miss, to Tennessee, LSU the first time. Then went to go be a head coach at UTSA and McNeese State before coming back to LSU. So you can tell every time he left Louisiana, his heart always pulled him back. He left, he came back. So he's a Louisiana guy through and through. And our friend Chester Boucher, I saw her. She had a post on Instagram. She had the post where it was him at a press conference, but Chester mentions the fact that LSU has needed this because it felt like Brian Kelly, in a lot of ways, was divorced from that community in Baton Rouge and was looking to be just a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, he pulled out the Southern accent. He tried his hardest.
The warning signs were there.
He was faking his way around campus, and it just never felt like Brian Kelly totally understood it. And I go back to the soundbite that we played from Kirby Smart in the first hour where he was saying how when he was at LSU, that's not your office. You're just renting it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Brian Kelly, just the way that he walks around, probably felt like he owned the place, owned that office, and look what happened.
Yep. And we've seen people, we know people that treat, whether it's Airbnbs, rental cars, we see the ones that treat it with care, and we see the ones that treat it like it is.
You see locker rooms.
Locker rooms the exact same way. You see the people who do it, and I think Frank Wilson, as he knows he's not going to be the head coach for LSU moving forward. I think even if he wins out, he won't be the head coach.
No.
But he knows that this can be an audition for him as he moves forward in his coaching career, then this could be something for him to use as a stepping stone moving forward.
And honestly, I feel like this is one of the interesting ones because if LSU does go and hire a group of 5 guy, we could see a coaching trade.
Yes.
If Wilson were to win
That's
out
a good point.
and say, John Summerall,
right,
why don't we'll pay you some money, come up here. Frank Wilson already said he likes it in Louisiana. He always comes back. Why doesn't he just take a 2-hour drive down the road, go coach at Tulane, be the head coach there, get nice experience with a good group of 5 program and good resources there to maybe parlay it into something else. I don't know. It's very early. I mean, they just fired Brian Kelly the other day, so we'll see. We saw a college football player trade with Joey Aguilar and Nico.
Yes, that's right.
So maybe we'll see a coaching trade.
Can we see a coaching trade? It looks something that could be very, very enticing for LSU as they move forward. We got a chance to hear from Frank Wilson about what LSU means to him.
It's important to our state. I think it's important. You put it this way. I was a head coach at another university in this state. I left that university as the head coach to come back here, right? And I chose to. I chose to come back here because it's a very, very unique place that there's no place like LSU. I've worked at universities in this conference, around this country, and there's something about the people here. And so when you speak of LSU, you can talk about the beautiful stadium, the Pantheon, right? The concrete, this beautiful facility that we're in. But LSU's not bricks and mortar. It's the people. It's the people that make LSU what it is. And we live and we thrive in a people society that as we evoke into relationships, it cuts deep. And so it's totally different than another school where you just go to work, that you become a part of it. It becomes a part of you. And it's the people in this building, it's the people in this community, it's the people in this state that gravitates, that pulls you in. And it's why we say forever LSU, because it's not just a job.
So you can tell he's speaking from the heart right there. LSU means a lot to him. The school he mentioned, it was actually McNeese State, where he was the head coach. He said, you know what? I don't want to be the head coach. I want to be an assistant coach at LSU. He came back, and now he'll have his chance to take LSU to that next level until they get a new head coach. The first test will be the Alabama Crimson Tide coming up on November the 8th. We'll see how they can do it there against the Tide. But in my opinion, this will come back to, in my opinion, how does LSU look going down the stretch? This is kind of where Bobby Petrino has fumbled the ball in some ways. The team has looked good, but the interim coach will not be the head coach because they need to stack wins.
Here's the most interesting thing to me about this whole thing. Once Brian Kelly got fired, we saw former players talking about, oh, Brian Kelly didn't do this for me. Brian Kelly did not help me in this situation. So it almost felt like it was just a toxic energy in the clubhouse, so to speak, and it definitely felt like the players quit on him against Texas A&M.
Yep.
Now, from the sounds of it, Frank Wilson sounds like a guy that these players like. So they're going to be playing for their head coach here against Alabama. And I'd just be interested to see how they look going into Tuscaloosa. I mean, Bama's going to come in as presumably the number 4 team in the country. I think by then this is the last week that AP poll matters.
Right.
I believe we have the
committee poll,
we have the committee poll, but I just don't think they're going to move on their off week. I'd honestly be interested to see. I don't know what the line is. I don't know if it's out yet. But
there might be a look-ahead line.
I would be shocked if it was more than 1 touchdown. Genuinely be shocked.
Really, because of that much respect for what LSU can be.
Yeah, I mean they have guys.
Absolutely.
Trey Green has been a calamity for them. And then Garrett Nussmeier, we know Garrett Nussmeier can play. It just feels like there was a quit on this team once they started to lose games. After the Ole Miss game, it felt like they started to quit a little bit. And then you look at this game, they definitely started to quit. And then the Vanderbilt one, it was like, oh, my goodness, we just lost to Vanderbilt. And stuff like that.
Yeah, and that game is in Tuscaloosa. I don't see a look-ahead line right now. But
I would put it at 5.5.
Okay, and that sounds about fair. Anywhere between 5.5 and 7.5, I think is a fair number according to the ESPN analytics. Alabama about an 81% chance to win the football game. So we'll see where the line comes out. Of course, the odds makers might have a few lines offshore. We'll see what those are coming up next. And coming up next here on our program, we will head over to Oklahoma City and check in with our friend Holden Kuzmark. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, looking forward to another great week of college football. Also putting to bed some of the results that we saw from a week ago. Happy to be joined by our good friend Holden Cruz-Mark on the program today from Oklahoma City. We got a chance to talk to Brian a little bit earlier this week. It's been a really busy time for you guys. Obviously, you got the banner dropped a couple of weeks ago. The Oklahoma City Thunder off to a really nice start. How's it been over there in OKC?
Yeah, the Thunder are off to a really nice start this season, which takes away, I think, from a lot of the pain some of the fans are feeling from the football teams right now.
Yeah.
So it's a nice fallback here in Oklahoma now that the Thunder are rolling and consistently good.
Absolutely. Oklahoma's football team, the Sooners, they were probably on top of the world about 5 weeks ago, and then John Mateer messes up his hand in the Auburn game, a game they win, a game he has a huge part in. And I feel like ever since then, it's just been like a slippery slope downhill for this football team. The good news is he came back 17 days after surgery. The bad news is that he hasn't looked all that great. Now that there is 2 losses on the board, what do you make of where Oklahoma is right now and where Mateer is right now as they look forward to yet another huge game in the SEC?
Yeah. Well, I would add that the bad news was that he came back so soon.
That's right. It could be hand in hand. Yeah.
That to me just didn't make any sense at all at the time. It felt like you were rushing him back, and he just hasn't looked right ever since. I mean, he had the horrible game against Texas with the 3 interceptions and the offense not scoring a single touchdown. And then his performance got a little masked against South Carolina. He didn't have to do too much because the South Carolina offense didn't really put much pressure on OU to keep scoring points, and they got a good attack from the running game. So it kind of overshadowed some of the still inconsistencies within him, and it just showed up again against Ole Miss. And he keeps saying that it's not the thumb, his thumb is fine. And if that's the case, then okay, so now you just magically can't make decisions in your mind, and you seem a little bit slower out there. The quarterback run game isn't working.
Right.
I think he should be saying that it's the thumb. That's what he should be saying.
Yes.
Because now you've opened yourself up to all these other questions. Okay, well, if it's not the thumb, so you just have now lost everything that you had early in the season.
Right.
And it's not like Ole Miss is exactly, peak Alabama defense or anything, or even this OU defense. That's a defense that you should be able to do good things against. And really, outside of Xavier Robinson in the second half, they did not do much offensively.
Yeah, the defense has been the calling card for this football team. I harken all the way back to the Michigan game where they made Bryce Underwood's life hell, and they made Jackson Arnold's life hell when they played the Auburn Tigers. 9 sacks, 10 sacks, however you want to record it there in that one. But it felt like against Lane Kiffin, the defense was actually the part where they could not get over. You see the numbers in that game on Saturday, more than 400 total yards, a little bit of smack talk as well between Lane Kiffin and one of the defenders for the Oklahoma Sooners. What was the setback there for this defense, or do you think it was a one-off, or do you think that this is a sign of more things to come with a really good Tennessee team on deck?
Yeah, I think this is just what we haven't seen all season and it's the area that I've thought that they were the most vulnerable on defense is in the secondary. They didn't bring in anybody from the portal. They're relying on a lot of their young guys to step up and, make, improvements and stuff like that. And, you can see on the defensive line and, the linebackers, you've got experience, you've got talent. And that's not to say that there's no talent in the secondary, but that's been the weak point of this Sooner defense so far, and they just haven't faced a quarterback that's been able to expose them this year.
Right.
Like you mentioned, Bryce Underwood, true freshman, Jackson Arnold at Auburn, not exactly polished quarterbacks like Trinidad Chambliss and who they're going to face this week at Tennessee. It's if you can dice them up or if you can pass the ball, you can get the ball moving through the air. That's where you can hurt this team, and especially if you can get the ball out quick. I think Ole Miss did some extra protections and stuff like that to try and slow down the pass rush and give Chambliss a little bit of extra time. And their 2 losses have come against Texas and Ole Miss, and Arch so far this year. He's not exactly dicing anybody up through the air. So they hadn't really been challenged in a way that Trinidad Chambliss challenged them through the air. And really one of the things that kept OU in it for a while was the fact that Lane Kiffin kept throwing Austin Simmons in the game and trying to make things happen, because that just completely ruined several of their drives. And so without that, who knows exactly how bad that game could have gotten if they punch it in there and everything like that. So yeah, I think you can attack this OU defense through the air, and if they're not able to get pressure on the quarterback, then they're gonna potentially have a tough time, especially right now with Gentry Williams. He's their best cornerback, and he's always banged up. So if he is able to be healthy, their secondary looks a little bit better. If he's not, then that's where they're struggling, because right now their best cornerback is a true freshman, Cortland Guillory, and Eli Bowen is their second best cornerback. He's a true sophomore. So there's some inexperience there, and I think it showed in that Ole Miss game, and it's something that Tennessee can exploit as well. Yeah, for sure. Moving to the flip side of that, the good news, I would think, for the Oklahoma offense is this might be the worst defense in the SEC that they'll face. Tennessee has not been very good defensively. How much do you think that might be able to help Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer, and this offense be able to get back on track here in this football game? Yeah, I definitely think that'll be a huge key to maybe getting Mateer. I don't want to say he's lacking confidence, because he always seems to be a pretty confident guy. Absolutely. But when you're playing the way you are, surely that has to knock you down a little bit in your confidence. So maybe a game like this could help him get right, and they can, start, and it gives them some momentum into the, these final 3 games that they have after Tennessee, which is still a bit of a gauntlet at Alabama, Missouri, and LSU, even though they don't have Brian Kelly anymore. So this is an important game for the OU offense, because they need to show some more signs of life. And, even when they were cooking early in the season, it wasn't exactly like they were actually cooking. They just did. They did pretty well, right? And they let the defense kind of guide them through it. Now they're just not even playing complementary football with the defense, and I think that was part of the issue against Ole Miss. Is I think Ole Miss ran double the amount of plays that OU did. So any defense is eventually going to wear down if you're on the field that much and your offense just isn't really helping you out, giving you some long drives and everything like that. No question. We got a chance to hear from Brent Venables on helping his QB1.
Talk open and honest with them, and try to help them manage the burden of expectations and the burden of responsibility. Certainly everything goes through the quarterback. I've said this a lot. You playing good people, you can't have a quarterback that plays poorly and expect to win, but you don't have to play perfect and win either. You just have to be able to manage the game well, and for the most part, he's done a really good job of that. We're 6-2. The success that we've had have been because he's done a great job of playing well at all the right times, and then again collectively around him, we gotta play better as well to help him. But you always, I've talked to him from the beginning of the day to the end of the day when we cross paths, both here in the building and out on the practice field, and what the defense is doing, where the weak spots are, things of that nature. But my biggest role is in trying to support him and help him, manage the responsibility from a leadership standpoint.
So it sounds like he's saying all the right things about helping his quarterback at this point of the season. Spinning this thing forward with Oklahoma, they have one of the most interesting scheduling situations, because yes, it is a tough schedule, but if they get through it, they are no doubt in the college football playoff and probably have the best resume of all the 12 teams that will be in. They might not get the 1 seed just because of 2 losses, obviously, but as far as just pure resume of who they've beat. But going into this week, and then you're off next week, and then you have Alabama, how do you think that they're handling this, knowing that the margin of error is paper thin given the fact they have 2 losses heading into this final stretch?
Yeah, it's a super intriguing matchup, because both OU and Tennessee, they're sitting on that 2-loss line. Another loss really would push them onto the bubble of the playoff and everything like that. So, and especially for OU, just the fact that you have the Alabama game left on your schedule, this almost just feels like a must-win if you're going to make the playoff. And it's not to say if they lose this game to Alabama, this is a bad season. Remember, this team won 6 games a year ago, so winning 8 games would be a nice step in the right direction in the first year, where again Ben Arbuckle is 29, 30, he might be 30 years old now, tasked with leading the offense and everything. They're really kind of, switching things up on that side of the ball. So I think an 8-win season would be good, but obviously the expectations change with the start to the season. And so I think you have to win this game if you're going to challenge for the playoff, because it's going to be pretty difficult to win at Alabama even after the bye week and everything. So this feels like a must win. And what I would really like to see the Sooners do is try to rely more on the run game and Xavier Robinson. I mean, this is a guy that showed super potential last year down the stretch as a true freshman, and then was not involved at all early in the season. It felt like, and to the point where I was wondering if maybe they were just going to redshirt him,
right?
Because he was not involved at all, and that was surprising too, given the fact that Jaden Ott had not been involved at all. So you're like, well, what are we exactly doing here?
Right.
And Xavier Robinson finally gets involved after the Sooners are sputtering all first half against Ole Miss, and he rips off 2 touchdowns, the big 65-yarder that really kind of brought some life back into the game and the team and everything. I would like to see him get more involved. I'd like to see maybe a 60-40, 70-30 split with him and Blaylock, and just try and really establish the run game against this team. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off Mateer, just knowing that he doesn't have to be Superman, which is kind of what he was tasked with early in the season. They were essentially only winning those games because of him offensively. And now they're losing games because of him. So it's, if you can get the run game going, that just means the offensive line's a little banged up right now, kind of shuffled a couple pieces around. They had a true freshman starting at right tackle against Ole Miss, and he came in to play guard. So that was kind of a little bit of an interesting situation. You have 2 freshmen as your left tackle and your right tackle. So if they're able to run the ball, that means the O-line's looking good, and that takes some pressure off Mateer, and maybe you can get the receivers free a little bit more, and just really get this offense going, because they need to get going if they want to have any chance at making the playoff.
Holden, before we jump over to that hoops team that you cover in Mr. SG Free Throw, you and I have talked a little bit off camera, and there was a guy that got fired over in Gainesville a few weeks ago. Now, could you see the Oklahoma State Cowboys trying to go after Mr. Billy Napier here in this coaching carousel?
Well, as someone who's been on the Billy to OSU train, I certainly hope so. That's my ideal fit. That's what I think. OSU fans don't like it, but I think they'll get over it, especially if he's there and get some wins going in Stillwater. I mean, at this rate, the bar's pretty low. Just winning a game and for OSU is like winning the Super Bowl at this point. I mean,
you gotta give the shirtless guy something to cheer for.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's been the highlight of this season, is the shirtless guys, and then you had the banana people at the last game too. The OSU fans they're definitely bringing it, and I think at this point, it's like, well, what are you gonna do? Boo this team? Like everybody knows what they are at this point. At least try to have some fun with it. And so I'm glad, and I can't believe just how much of a phenomenon the shirtless people have been. I mean, I'm seeing NBA games where dudes are there taking their shirts off and waving.
Here's what I'm gonna tell you. So I went up to Morgantown last week for homecoming and the Coal Rush game against TCU. Now, obviously, West Virginia was never supposed to win that game. But I will say, it's starting to spread because there was a group of shirtless guys just waving it around in the student section. It was 40 degrees out. But it's traveling. It really is. It's starting to become a trend. You know how I maybe we're seeing a changing of the guard from like the brown paper bags to now it's just
Tarps off.
Tarps off.
Shows your support and everything else. I want to move to the another reason why people are cheering there in Oklahoma City is that basketball team that came home with an NBA championship last year, and so far they have looked the part. Now Oklahoma City 5-0 on the season. They got a big double overtime win not that long ago. What do you make of the early start so far from this squad, and Sorry, Patrick. They obviously they beat the Thunder.
There he is. SG free throw.
They beat the Pacers. There he is.
Hey, Patrick. 31 points the other night, only 2 free throws. So
okay, but you look at the Pacers game in Game 8 of the NBA Finals. I think he shot like 30 free throws.
Hey, if they're fouling him, they're fouling him. That's on the refs, man.
Hey,
Dude,
all I'm gonna say is I think
they want to call it, they'll call it.
I think I said
when you drive as much as SGA, you're going to get fouled.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
but I just thought it was so funny on banner night that he got his ring and then he ran right to the free throw line. I gotta poke fun at him. Come on.
I do love it. But okay, so the big thing for me about this basketball team, and Patrick mentioned it, they're doing what they did last year. And what made them successful a year ago was getting to the free throw line, outscoring teams, and doing well late. Are you even surprised that an NBA champion, that there has not been a hangover effect so far, and a perfect 5-0 in a really, really competitive West?
Yeah, I think the most surprising thing is just the fact that they've, haven't played a game with Jalen Williams all season. Yeah. J-Dub has been out as he recovers from that wrist injury. Chet has missed a game. Alex Caruso has missed a couple. Cason Wallace has missed some time. It just seems like no matter who they trot out there, that they're playing competitive games, and now they have the experience to know how to win these close games, and it's really showing against some of these other teams. And I think it'd be pretty easy to sit there and say, as the Thunder, like, hey, if we don't have to win these games, we can, just turn it on in the playoffs, and that's just not their mindset at all. They want to win these games, and they don't care who's out, who's in. They're going to go out there and give maximum effort and try to win these games. And it hasn't been pretty all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have all the pieces, but they just keep finding ways to win so far this season. And it is kind of funny because this is a team that last year set the NBA record for point differential in a season.
Yeah. Right.
And now they're playing all these close games so far to start the season. So I know a lot of Thunder fans are, not enjoying all these close games, but at least they're winning them. And it's been a minute since we had a double overtime game. You had the 2 to start the season, 2 straight double overtime games.
Right.
So it's been an interesting season so far, and we kind of expect J-Dub to get back sooner rather than later. I definitely expect him to return before the calendar year flips over. One of the interesting things, or I guess sad things right now, is that the Thunder just announced today that Nikola Topic, their first round draft pick from the season from last year, has testicular cancer, and he's undergoing chemotherapy. So that was a guy that we kind of thought would maybe make a new impact on this team, considering he didn't play at all with his ACL injury a year ago. So that was this kind of and if there's any team that can weather a blow like that, to losing a lottery pick, it's the Thunder. So, but yeah, obviously we're all wishing him the best in his recovery as he gets through that. And obviously basketball's secondary for him, but
absolutely.
It's a good season for the Thunder so far, and injury bug, who cares? They're gonna keep winning games. It seems like.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter with this basketball team, and it seems like those things can be a rallying cry for a team to get them all together on the same page. But right now, weathering through the storm, 5-0 on the season, as Holden mentioned, got a big double overtime win there as well. Holden, thank you so much.
They got the Wizards tonight.
They got the Wizards.
Most likely.
That should be. You know what? Let's. I have no idea what the line is. Let's all guess it. I'm guessing 27.
No, I think it's going to be 13 and a half.
The Wizards have CJ and Chris Middleton. They're a little bit more respectable this year.
That's true. And I forgot.
I say 13 and a half.
All right, Holden, what do you think?
Is what I got.
9.5?
9.5.
Yeah.
A little over 13. It is 15 and a half.
I win.
15 and a half. Okay.
Yeah, 15 and a half. I still think they win by 27. And you said that, I think is it CJ is over there now?
Yeah, CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton. They've got some vets on the Wizards.
It's a sneaky team. I heard Charles Barkley on the inside of the NBA say free CJ McCollum. He doesn't need to be in that situation there.
Free Chris Middleton. Yeah. What did he do?
Yeah.
I know. He got a championship. He's fine.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
he got a title.
He doesn't deserve that.
Who we need to free is Austin Reeves. Get rid of LeBron. Get rid of Luka. And just let Austin Reeves cook. The former Sooner, man. You don't need LeBron. You don't need Luka. Just let Austin Reeves cook.
Have the Pacers throw the kitchen sink at LA.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
He's a point guard right now.
That'd be insane. It's been a really entertaining start there to the NBA season. Holden, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus.
All right, thanks, guys. I'll see you later.
That's Holden Kruzmark out of Oklahoma City. Was there with when they dropped the championship banner. Was obviously I know, and there later on, now with this basketball team, which in my opinion, you see one of two things from teams that win championships. You see a team that either just tries to coast, knowing that their season is going to go to June, or you see a team that comes out straight out of the gates, and they seem to be the latter.
Look, I honestly think the teams that come out and just instantly are like, "Yep, back to work. We didn't win anything last year." Those are the ones that are more likely to go back to back. I mean, sometimes you do see teams rest on their laurels a little bit. I bring up my team, the Lightning.
That's
From when they won it in 2020, and then they came out in 2021. I think they won opening night 5-0. So it's like, right back to business.
It is a mindset thing for sure, especially in these marathon sports like hockey and like basketball. So far, so good for the defending champions there in OKC. Stay with us next here on Sports Overtime. Much more to come.
feel better than the loss, I'll tell you that. We didn't have, but yeah, just proud of everybody. All the hard work, like I said, in preparation this week. It was great to put all the work in, let it pay off with a victory. Like I said in the interview earlier, I'm trying to be so appreciative, but all I can think about is, some of the runs in the game that I like to have back. But I'm always going to give homage, pay homage to the ones that came before me. Such a cool thing. I've been blessed with the teammates and coaches I had throughout the years to reach that milestone. But still more to do, and looking forward to being better.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens are back in action tonight in the NFL. A former SEC star and Derrick Henry and company looking to get the Ravens back on track. This has been a weird team because for a lot of reasons we thought this season that Baltimore will be one of the teams that is the most well-equipped to make a run for the Super Bowl. It certainly has not been that way.
No, it has not at all. And it just feels like one of those lost seasons. And it got away from them real early on. Obviously, they lost Lamar Jackson for a few weeks. They try the guy on your screen there, Cooper Rush. They see if he can get anything going. He cannot. So then they turn to Snoop Huntley. Tyler Snoop Huntley.
Yeah.
Snoop. And he led them to a big win last week. But as you can see at the bottom there, Lamar Jackson, he is back for the Week 9 matchup here against the Dolphins. There was a lot of controversy last week because, as you might remember, on the availability report on Thursday, I believe it was, everyone said Lamar Jackson is good to go.
Right.
And then it all of a sudden switched, and the NFL launched an investigation on it. I don't think they found anything against it, but still, it was just you look at who's the head coach, and you look at the last name.
Yep.
Harbaugh.
Yep.
And you just instantly think of the other Harbaugh.
Exactly. You just think, okay, what kind of games is this Harbaugh playing? Because we've seen the games that his brother played en route to the national championship there at Michigan. For this year, for the Ravens, as weird as it is as far as their defense has not played they did not play well at all. Their offense has seemed to sputter. They still mathematically aren't out of it. And if you look at the Vegas odds, they're still the favorite to win the division, which is insane to me.
That's just shocking to me. And, I mean, Derrick Henry hasn't really had a great year. I mean, it's hard to stack up against last year when he had a 1,900-yard rushing year.
Right.
And with what Saquon did. But, I mean, you look at both Derrick Henry and Saquon, they're not having as good of years as they are last year. But still, 6 rush touchdowns, 3 fumbles, 2 have been lost for Derrick Henry. Fumbles have always been a problem for him. I go back to the Tennessee days. They've kind of plagued him, but as you can see, only one 100-yard rushing game so far this year. It'll be interesting to see if he can get back on track against the Dolphins team that's just so weird to me because they've not had a good year.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to you about this earlier. The Falcons can't figure out who they want to be.
Right.
They beat the Bills, get blown out by the Panthers, and then they lose to the Dolphins. So it's just so strange.
There has been like a real identity crisis here with this football team as they move forward. Now, this could be a big win for them, and seemingly to me, seems like Miami head coach Mike McDaniel is really kind of coaching for his job at this point because things have been really on a bad stretch. We'll flip over to them in just a second. We'll stay with Baltimore for a moment first because there's a lot of former SEC guys or guys that went to SEC institutions playing for this Baltimore Ravens football team.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Derrick Henry obviously went to Alabama. You look at Mark Andrews over at Oklahoma, and then Ben Cleveland on the line coming from Georgia, and then a few more Georgia guys, Emory Jones Jr. over at LSU, John Jenkins, and Roquan Smith. Man, I feel like that name has been brought up so often in the NFL nowadays. And then rounding it out here, Marlon Humphrey, always a good defensive guy. Malachi Starks had that great year at Georgia last year. And Nick Moore, the long snapper.
How about the long snapper there? So a bunch of Georgia guys on this football team. And it felt like the Eagles for the longest time were only going to Alabama and Georgia players. It seems like Baltimore kind of in that same vein. Ozzie Newsome was a long-time general manager there, former Alabama player, played under Paul Bear Bryant. So he obviously knows SEC personnel. A lot of guys out of the SEC there on that football team. Flipping things over to Miami, you mentioned it off the top. They're a weird team because their best, and I know Tyreek Hill's not on this football team anymore, but their best seemed to me to be able to compete offensively at least with Kansas City's and Baltimore and Buffalo's and even Baltimore's. But this has been a team that has been seemingly a little lost here lately.
Yeah, and honestly, it begs the question, sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get out of Tua. And it begs the question, especially with the concussion history and his injury history. It's like, okay, yeah, he signed that nice contract, but is this it for him? I know there were some question marks around, will Quinn Ewers get his chance? And I know Quinn Ewers played last game, but it was because they were blowing out the Falcons. So it makes you wonder a little bit. And Mike McDaniel, it feels like he's coaching for his job, but I've never seen a guy more cool, calm, and collected than him.
I know.
It honestly is shocking to me.
Exactly. And there's a bunch of standouts there for the Miami Dolphins that used to play in the SEC there as well, including both the quarterbacks.
Yes. Tua Tagovailoa, obviously, had great career at Alabama. Quinn Ewers had a nice year last year with Texas. Devon Achane, man, when he came into the league, he took it by storm.
Unbelievable. Absolutely.
And then Jalen right there, one of the two Jalens at the wideout position. There you see the other one, Jalen Waddle. Larry Borum from Mizzou, Matthew Butler from Tennessee, and Benito Jones from Ole Miss there. And then rounding things out, KJ Britt, nice there from Auburn. Tyrell Dodson, Texas A&M. Willie Gay Jr. from Mississippi State. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, another guy that I was shocked that left Pittsburgh.
That's insane. I feel old now because I covered KJ Britt in high school when he was playing at Oxford High School there in the northeastern part of Alabama. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will close up shop here.
Welcome back in here to Southeast Sports Plus, closing up shop here on a Thursday as we take a look at the games this weekend. Obviously, the one that stands out to me right off the top there, number 9 Vanderbilt heading into Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns, and then Georgia and Florida. We let off the show with them. Can't call it the world's
largest outdoor cocktail party
anymore.
Can't
call it that anymore. And then moving right along here, Mississippi State and Arkansas, man, their fans, they don't even care about that game. They just can't wait for Monday.
Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to win.
Somebody's going to win, but it doesn't matter because they're already thinking about basketball. And then South Carolina taking on Ole Miss there up in Oxford, and then rounding it out, Oklahoma taking on Tennessee, a big top 20 matchup. Could have huge college football playoff implications on the line there. And Kentucky and Auburn. Will we see the loser of that game fire their head coach on Sunday?
Should be really interesting. Very, very interesting. We always like to pick a couple of these games against the Vegas number here.
Yes, we do.
Which are the hot games this week?
Let's start it off. Vanderbilt at Texas. Texas 3.5-point favorites. Go.
I really like Texas there in that matchup at home. I think this is a prove-it game for them. I think they cover.
This is going to be a story of the underdogs here this weekend. I got Vanderbilt at least covering that 3.5.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Georgia, Florida. Georgia. It's a neutral site game. Florida will be the home team in that matchup there. Who do you like there between the Bulldogs and the Gators?
I just said I like the underdog. I really like DJ Lagway upsetting the Georgia Bulldogs. Florida at least covers 7.5, but I might take a money line.
Sprinkle some of that on that money line. That's very interesting. Next up, the Tennessee Volunteers back at home against Oklahoma. Slim number there.
Yeah. I think I got to go again with the underdog here. That Tennessee defense is too suspect. We talked about it earlier in the week on our contender-pretender. We did Tennessee this week, and honestly, the defense is just too much of a liability. I think the Oklahoma defense will contain Joey Aguilar, and I think John Mateer bounces back.
I saw some holes in that Oklahoma defense. Holden talked about that as well.
Yeah.
I think those holes that Lane Kiffin poked, will be exploited by Josh Heupel and company. I like Tennessee. I just now noticed I didn't give my Georgia line. I like Georgia as well. So I have 3 favorites, which I don't really like because it feels very like a public thing to do, but 3 favorites so far.
And then South Carolina going into Oxford, taking on number 7 Ole Miss, 12.5-point favorites there. I think I gotta stay with Ole Miss.
See, this is where I go with the dog in this one. This game reminds me of what the South Carolina-Bama game was last week, where you could see a little bit of a pullback after Oklahoma got that big win on the road. I could see some pullback. Lenora Sellers making this interesting, at least covering the number, but Ole Miss wins the game.
And then finally, the one that we talked about earlier on the show this week, and we were just shocked at this number. Kentucky at Auburn. Auburn 11.5-point favorites. Go.
I don't see Auburn beating anybody by 11.5 points, but I have a motto on this show. When the line doesn't make sense, you just go with the side that doesn't make sense. A brand new quarterback starting in this game, if Ashton Daniels does get the start in this game, it doesn't make sense, but I have to go with my own thesis. I got to go with the Auburn Tigers because, to me, giving up 11 points, it's a lot to Kentucky.
Look, I mean, I think I talked about it yesterday. It felt like Hugh Freeze opened the door, and this is Ashton Daniels' job until the rest of the year, unless Hugh Freeze wants to throw Jackson Arnold out there because he beat Alabama last year in the last game. I feel like the Auburn defense is just not going to allow a touchdown the whole game. I think I said 2 field goals at most.
Right, so like 6 I just points, and then Auburn scores 20 or so.
Look, Kentucky played a terrible Tennessee defense. Let's just put it straight like that. And then they only scored 13 against Texas, and Texas has a really good defense, but I think Auburn has a better defense. I like Auburn 11.5, and those are my 5 picks. Those are your 5 picks. We'll keep track. We'll come back on Monday
for sure,
and we'll see who won.
I like it. That closes things up for us here on Southeast Sports Plus. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again here on Monday from 2 to 4.